round number 2 of the Mini British GT Championship live on RCI TV. Round number 1 from Moulton Park was as action-packed as it could get between two 30-minute races, but today a venue change to Silverstone in Northamptonshire, England, and more at stake. Both of the splits combined for this round number 2. Hello everybody, I'm Jesse Lee, joined by Stewie today for the broadcast, and we are in a very sunny, very beautiful Silverstone circuit in the United Kingdom. Stewie, welcome aboard, and I think the obvious thing is we got more cars this time.
Yeah, you're right. As we're switching to the qualifying session, we have both splits combined, as you already said, and that's about 53 cars. I think that's one of the biggest grids that we had in a weekly series in quite a while. Obviously, Silverstone, one of the few tracks that even allows that many cars. Last week was Moulton Park, so splits were split up in that case. And you mentioned sunny. In practice, actually, there was a rain cloud in the forecast, so there is a chance that it rains.
It certainly is, and this is not permanent, by the way. The splits, this is split 1 and split 2. Split 1 is the white numbered background, and split 2 is the silver numbered background. Normally, on this broadcast, we would refer to you as pro and silver. Today, duration of the series, we will refer to it as split 1 and split 2 because, like I mentioned, this isn't permanent. Next week, they will go back to their respective splits for exactly what Stewie just mentioned. This is one of the few tracks that can accommodate this many cars, and for the rounds where it does accommodate, or it does allow, we will merge the splits and we will spread them out again. Another first for RCI. Tim Ireland doing the heavy lifting there, the mental gymnastics, trying to figure all that out. Now, down to business today. 2 splits means 2 qualifying sessions. Yes, they're on the track at the same time, but here are the standings. This starting with split 2. Stan Vanderkolen went back-to-back, winning both races in round number 1 at Moulton Park. He has the championship lead over George Barr, Daniel Durrett, Martin Foster, and Kevin Boss, your top 5. Diamante, Whitehall, Harvey, and Vanderwood, Lee Kettle, the best first name in sim racing, round out your top 10. Behind them, it is incredibly close. I would expect after one round, just a few points, one position or two, if you will, separating all of them. You'll continue to see that throughout the last of the silver standing. It's also worth mentioning there have been significant midseason signups. Tim Ireland was talking to me all weekend about this. We've had 10 to 17, depending on how you count it, mid-season signups. That was just the split 2 championship, as it were. We'll show you the pro. They take the track. Of course, they won't right now. This is segregated or segmented qualifying that we have for you, starting out with split 2. They'll be on the clock first. And no, we are not going to separate them by how they qualify. Wherever they qualify is wherever they're going to start, as if it was a normal multi-class race. But do bear in mind, no overall points on offer here. They're still only racing for points, their respective split.
Worth to mention, if you look at the track status, currently it says fast, so the track will just improve, and since the split 1 drivers take the second half, we would assume that there will not be a lot of overlap between split 1 and split 2 drivers. Because split 1 drivers will have the faster track. And you mentioned the mid-season signups. I think people just saw how good the race last week was, or the races, we should say, because it was 2 30-minute races, and that was quite the thing there. So Phil win, and a lot of fights. Not too many incidents, so I guess a lot of people just wanted to join the fun.
Yeah, I think it was. We had a lot of people watching last week. By the way, gained some subscribers as well. Gained about 10 subscribers or something like that over the past couple of weeks. So thank you all at home very much, wherever you're watching in the world. We hope that you not only enjoyed last week and have come back, but are about to enjoy this. This is just like Stewie said, we're not overselling this. one of the biggest grids for a weekly series. Obviously, we've had endurance grids this big, but for a weekly series, this is just about the biggest grid we've had in 3 years. It's a lot of cars.
And I'm excited to see how this plays out, because with that many cars, there's accidents bound to happen. But I mean, we've seen the Split 2 highlights last time, and I think race 1 was a bit more chaotic than race 2. So I'm sure we'll have quite a lot of action here today. And yeah, 1 hour, 30-minute race, 2 pit stops. So like, I guess we see a lot of varying strategies here, which means the grid will widen a bit when people pit early or later, and then yeah, we will have a full track map today, I'm sure of it.
We certainly will. There's going to be cars everywhere. We haven't even talked about pit requirements. We'll save you that for when we are on the grid a little bit later. A lot to go over, and we will, of course, go over it a little bit more in depth. Monte out in front thus far, a 58.932, quick enough for provisional pole, 0.3 quicker than Mike Redford. Filippo continuing to try and go quicker in that Garage 59 liveried McLaren. And my goodness, what a couple of weeks it's been for McLaren. They were the most OP dominant car we've possibly ever seen in ACC. The new 9.5 patch comes out. It dramatically changed that car. Of course, a lot of the drivers did their pre-Q and qualified in that car prior to that. What will we see out of the McLaren here today? Your guess is as good as mine. Right now, still looking pretty darn good at the top of the field. With all in third place, Lamborghini, the well, actually, I would say usually one of the few, but we have several in this race today. But 4 out of 5 top qualifiers still in that McLaren going well. And this man right here, the Arsols Incorporated Jaguar, Joe Dauber, a fan favorite for sure. And my word, what a car, what a sound.
Yeah, we have the Jag and the Lexus in this grid, courtesy of our Split 2 drivers. So I think these special cars we usually see in the lower splits, because either it's just drivers that do not care too much about the results, or it's just because they're so off pace that they can make it into Split 1. So it's good to see these cars on the broadcast again. It's been a while. I think the last time must have been one of the short summer or winter series that we've done. If they were broadcasted, which I'm not sure about. And one thing to mention as well, it's not only one of the biggest grids, it's one of the... No, it's a grid with the most custom liveries we've had in a while as well.
How many?
I didn't count, but it's more than 50% of the grid, which is way more than we usually have. I think for the last Friday champ, out of the 30-something cars, there were maybe 5 or 6 custom liveries. But yeah, here a lot of people, I think, even made the effort to make a new livery specifically for this championship.
Credit to the teams and the drivers for doing that. We're setting a lot of first here today, or sort of necessarily first, but a lot of return to form, if you will. A golden Jaguar around the racetrack, and I will attempt to not offend any British-speaking people in the chat. I will not call it a Jaguar in this race. I will pronounce it appropriately, Jaguar, for the duration of the series. Joe in that car, making it look decent. Realistically, everyone likes to say, oh, it's not viable, you can't do decent times in it, you cannot be competitive in it. But look at Joe Dauber in the middle of this silver field, or excuse me, the Split 2 field right now with it. I would say that's relatively competitive. I think a lot of times when people say that you can be competitive, they really mean that it's not the best, S-tier car, and perhaps that is true, but still competitive nonetheless. An improvement there, a 2-minute 6.67, one off the mark of the beast there. But everybody still going around, a 58.875 now the mark to beat, and Vander Kolen, the man who dominated 1 week ago at Alton Park, is 27/100ths off of that time. Forster in third place, 2/10 off. Right behind him is Withall in that Lamborghini. The Ferraris and the Italian manufacturers have broken up that McLaren dominance at the top right now.
And I think we're going to see a few more quick times. This should be the last lap they can go out, because at between 11 and 10 minutes there's the overlap time. So most of these laps are going to be the last. Fashuto here, 1.5 seconds off, so he's going to jump into the top 10 here. And there's quite a big gap between P1 and the last driver in silver, which makes sense because in pre-Q it would be like everybody else, so there's bound to be a big gap. And a lot of drivers still on a green lap here. One of them, Kevin Boss, who I feel like didn't have an actual lap yet.
No,
You've driven with him this weekend, right? In the
Yeah.
24-hour race, and he's definitely not that slow.
I'm
So,
not that slow. To put that in perspective.
This looks like he just abandoned the lap for some other reason and didn't reset one. So we're just gonna have a look here how he's doing at the moment. 4 tenths up, so maybe something in the last sector. While another car abandons the lap ahead here. And this is also one of the custom liveries. But I don't think this is specifically made for this champ, because I've seen this figure on the side quite a lot of times before.
Well, he did make it specifically for this series. Wait, actually, no, he didn't, because he ran this in something prior to this, trying to get ready for the 24 and this series. So he made this livery, but this is the standard wheelie slow racing team livery that you see on many different cars. Crash and I were here. His name's Crashneck on Twitch, by the way. Go follow him. Kevin Boss and me ran the 4 hours of Silverstone here in a Chevrolet. Actually made that livery, but it doesn't matter. It was the same color scheme as this car. So very common thing, and he is still at the back, but coming around to get the final lap. The pro cars will be released from the pit lane. Several of them already out. Lydiard and Aaron Trout already on the racetrack. Many more coming. This is the final attempt for the 31.
Okay, 6 seconds
out
up.
of literal last place. 6 seconds up will put him somewhere near the front within a second. And he lost a little bit of time there at the end, but still mighty gain. A 2-minute 2:30 for Kevin Boss takes him out of the basement. Split 2 cars have qualified. They are coming off of the racetrack and/or already have done. This is the Split 1 race, the Split 1 cars, and what a race we were treated to. 1 week ago. Can Phil Roberts continue that momentum?
And before we go on the laps here, let's have a look at the standings. Do you want to take that over, Jesse?
Absolutely. Phil Roberts, of course, finished second and first and had the pole position. He's got 80 points. Tobias Lang in second place. Andy Boardman third. Thomas Ehrentrout fourth. And Nicholas Keller round out your top 5. Andre Hartman in sixth place. Chris Downing, Richard Phillips, Jack, and Christoph Verstreppen, your top 10 in the Split 1 or Pro Class. Behind them, it's going to be more of the same. A lot of ties here. You'll see, as is common, we've had 2 races in 1 round. So the drivers flip-flopping positions. The ties, you're going to continue to see that throughout the championship. A couple of cars out of place, in my opinion, there was Jordan Daly and Grim Lilith a little bit off, had issues in the first round. The back of the grid, and we talked about the mid-season signups, and this is exactly what we're talking about. A lot of these drivers with no points are mid-season signups.
I think everybody behind Wojciech Rebecki should be a mid-season sign-up, because I don't remember Martin Ulrich, Kaletayut, all of these in the race last week. So that's quite a lot. And there's another page with
there's
even more mid-season signups.
Yeah. Keep in mind, a 0 means they're still active in the championship. A dash, of course, means that they have retired from the series. So a 0, typically to us here in the booth, tells us they're a mid-season sign-up. That's almost certainly the case for the majority of those 0s. A couple of notables mid-season sign-ups: Carlos Caladiot, of course, already mentioned by my partner here, but also the only three-time Night Owl champion, Harry Conway, has entered in the series as well. Didn't qualify in the pro split either, but they were asked to be bumped up, and I believe that's exactly what happened. They were, in fact, bumped up. Now, the end of the out lap and the first flying lap coming around to be completed. We take to the Hamilton Straight for the first time for the pro cars. You theorized, Stewie, that the track would be in a lot better condition. There doing nothing but getting quicker anyway. See how good that theory is. Are you expecting a pretty much clean split between the two splits?
Um, I would say there's maybe 2 or 3 cars that are mixed between the two splits, because you see the track is already at optimum, and we've seen 57 lap times on the practice server before, which is about a second quicker. So we'll see. I don't think it's gonna be a lot.
Certainly see as we continue to go around the final couple of corners for the pro field, left field, and through Woodcote for the, I'd say the final time, but it's the first time in anger. Thomas Ehrentraut's going to set our first representative lap as they come across the line, and the Limitless Speed Driver's car immediately does a 58.287 for provisional pole. Andy Boardman comes through 8/100ths off of that pace. Martin Lawrence, a mid-season sign-up as well, racing for the RCI Esports team in the red car. I heard that you're quite fond of this particular vehicle.
I am, and he also qualified in Split 2, by the way, and got bumped up.
Yeah, that's right. I knew there was another car. You're absolutely right, Stewie. I knew there was another car that did that. I had just forgotten which one it was. Right, you are. Martin Lawrence, of course, claiming that, well, the M6, of course, your eyes do not deceive you. That's not the new M4. That is the old M6 as well. Claimed that, well, it's a good car. It's just a bad pre-qualifying track for it, and requested to be bumped up. And, of course, Tim Ireland obliged. When a driver, you're not really going to fight that very often, are you, when a driver tells you they would like to be bumped up a class, and especially when they are a class of driver like Martin Lawrence. I told you that Stewie liked this car. And now you may know why he likes this car. His name's on it.
Yeah, that's the car that...
Oh, the best last name in sim racing has had a big spin and a slide and a reset to the pit lane. I don't know what manner of things happened to him. Was that Stowe that he wrecked out of?
I didn't actually pay attention because it happened just as we moved to that car. Maybe that was the instant curse or something. But yeah, the M6, Martin Lawrence, me, and then a few of other drivers used that car in EWC last year with this exact livery, and that's why one of my favorite cars and liveries we have at RCI. Verstappen coming across the... No, he's not. That's the wrong line, but he is up on the time, and so is basically everybody else in the top 10, so the track's still getting better.
It'll get you. Keep in mind, folks at home, we do not use the F1 pit straight. We use the original, and in my opinion, correct GT pit straight here. I've done that too. I've done that several times. You'd think I'd get used to it by now, but absolutely case. Kuzma up in front of the field, a 57.745, the 777 McLaren, currently the quickest. Lang comes through and sets the second quickest lap. Kuzma into the pit lane for a reset. Shelgren the same thing in fourth. Ehrentraut now down to third place. This man, Christoph Verstappen in the Heart of Racing livery 747. Weird, he's not driving the Verstappen racing car in this championship, but though besides still has the correct number. Comes across the line, P2, a 57.877. Good enough for second place. Just over a tenth, about a half tenths off of pole position.
And I think we can already see kind of a trend of the McLarens being ahead. But even before the Evo came out, the McLaren for the longest time has been the quickest car around here. So it's not too surprising to see them in front. And yeah, with this new car, you already talked about it, was quite OP for a while. Then got nerfed just recently, mainly at Spa, but also for other tracks. And that is an exact time match here for P1 at the moment.
Oh no, and that's bad news for Nicholas Keller. Let me explain what happens when you tie exactly, and that's exactly what's happened. They both ran a 57.745 down to the thousandth of a second. They've tied. Keller will, it's bad news for him because they will be credited with only second place. Why? Because in ACC, just like most motorsport, when you have the same exact time, whoever ran the time first gets the position essentially. That's exactly what Kuzma has done at this stage. For Keller, all they've got to do is do 1/1000th quicker, and they can break that tie. Easier said than done.
And at the moment, it looks like the track kind of settled into the state because we don't see as many big improvements anymore. And I guess I was wrong with how the splits will be mixed because there's quite a few Split 2 drivers ahead of Pro drivers. Phil Roberts, who won last week's event, currently only down in P28. But I think he said that Silverstone is just a track that he's never been really good at. Ooh.
Oh, contact here in qualifying. That's going to send Phil Roberts around, and that's going to effectively end their qualifying because there's only 1 minute left. Oh, I see what's happened here. The Lamborghini in front lost grip going into cops and absolutely nowhere to go. You're loaded up mid-corner for Phil Roberts. You can't really do anything. You're just hoping the car in front of you that's having the incident opposite locks away. That didn't happen. It was a slow slide for that Lamborghini, and that is qualifying done and dusted for your championship leader, and they will have to start for at best case scenario 21st position.
Look at P3 and P4. That's also a match time, and in general it's so close. P17, P18, P19, there's only 1/10 between these two. It's really close at the moment.
A lot of invalidations going on around the track. The 77 car has invalidated and returned to pit lane. There was another car as well up in the loop. Didn't quite catch the number on the side of that machine, but they have also come to pit lane. Of course, Andy Boardman for Grease Weasel Racing gets to keep third place, and he won't swap the sides of the grid because
he's still on a valid lap, by the way. He made it just in time over the line.
Ooh, he set the time first of all, or Lang did. So that's why he has third, but he's looking for a little bit more, trying to bump up a row and break the deadlock on the front row. Shelgren in the 294 for Kaiju Racing, trying to get a little bit further up the field. In P9, up on their time, looking good coming through left field.
He's 6/10 up at the moment, 6.5 even. So that will be very, very good P1 here. 7/10 almost.
Here comes Shelgren to the line, and it is true. It's a 57.435 for the last chance qualifier. It might not be Phil Roberts, but it is a Kaiju car on provisional pole again.
That was a really, really good time. 3/10 ahead of P2 in this close grid. That's very impressive.
If Shelgren can do that in this race, it's going to be a lonely race for him. It's going to be a frustrating one for everybody else. Kuzma's probably sitting there going, I thought I had that in the bank there. And one of the final qualifiers, Nico Kumpu for JP Motorsport coming across the line, and that was not an improvement for them. They will be in 12th place. Just a few cars out there still. Martin Ulrich for the WRT liveried BMW, that the M4 variant, of course, is in 7th place, looking for an improvement, a pickup, and he doesn't pick up a position for that lap. Qualifying confirmed. The results of qualifying on your screen. Last lap heroics for Shelgren, setting the quickest first and second sector, was 3/10 quicker than anybody else, and set that 57.435. Good enough for pole position in split one. Kuzma and Keller, who tied for time, they will start on the first and second row of the grid. The same thing could be said for Boardman and Lang, who also tied on time. Verstappen, Ulrich, Conway, Ehrentraut, and Hartman, the rest of your top 10 in pro for split one, if you will. Jordan Daly down in 17th place. I know that they were not particularly enthused about their setup today. Phil Roberts, your championship leader, in 26th place. Split two, looking like Forster on pole position, and what an incredible job they did by Monte in qualifying as well. A 58.832, good enough for pole in that class. Redford third, Durrett in fourth place. Vander Kolen, your double winner from Alton Park, will start 32nd, fifth or so.
And it's so many cars. It's been a while since I scrolled that much
I
in the
undersold it.
in the qualifying.
It really is, and I undersold it too because I put a tweet out. I usually put a tweet out about, "Hey, we're live. Come hang out." For those of you that maybe are here because of that, thank you very much for hanging out. We hope that you enjoyed that incredible qualifying. If that qualifying is anything to go by, I think the race is going to be pretty darn awesome as well. But I undersold it in my tweet. I said there's 40 plus cars. Just said there was 50 plus cars.
Yeah, I mean, this would always count, almost count as a big grid race, would it? Because
Well, it's
those are
definitely
usually
that. Yeah.
like 70 to 80 cars, and we're not too far off that.
They really are. Just going over some things from chat. Of course, Mike Redford, who joins us in the race and in the chat as well, has mentioned they had 4 tenths in the bank and bottled it, frustrated with themselves. Some other chats haven't raced ACC in over a year. This is making me want to rejoin Mondays. You should. It's an absolute huge party here on Monday. We're just happy to be back here on Monday, to be honest with you. And I think the drivers have responded to that. Had 10 plus mid-season signups after round one. In round one, we were not light on cars or talent to begin with. We came in just under the number of pit boxes required to have both splits for the combined round. The way you can think of that at home is when you have two regional series, like a North and a South or an East and a West series, that race their own schedule, and then they have those all-star rounds or combined beats where they all compete. They're still competing for championship points inside their own class. You'd call it a multi-class race, but it's really a multi-championship race. Nobody's getting overall points here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, next week they will be separated again. There'll be a split one and a split two, but of course we will continue bringing you split two highlights. Also mentioning in the chat, some of the chatter, Stewie, quite impressed that you drove anything that wasn't a Porsche. Oh, there's an anime on that car.
That is true. Yeah, I was gonna reply to that message in chat as well, and defend myself, saying it's not necessarily by my choice. It's just very hard to find people to drive the Porsche with. So anything that is endurance, kind of have to go with everybody else and not drive the Porsche. But the M6 for EWC was more the because at this point it was already obsolete with the M4 being out, and we just wanted to have a fun car, and wasn't the quickest, but it was fun for sure.
What Stewie actually means to say is it's difficult to find somebody who has the ability and the talent that he Porsche to drive with him. It's what he meant to say. He was being nice. Other besides championship leader there in the motorbike liveried car. We called it the Renault Laguna last week. That is not true. It's based on a motorbike. Several of the other cars for Kaiju Racing are based on the Super Touring era of British Touring Car Championship. That is not one of them for this round. Speaking of which, Kaiju Racing continuing. They've arrived in a big way recently at RCI. They've got a lot of podiums. Phil Roberts has done a lot of that damage himself, but now his teammate today doing a little work at the front of the field. That's incredible to see.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last week already. There's quite a lot of Kaiju cars, and then the don't recall the name of the team, but the 3 or 4 McLaren. So there's quite a lot of teams that entered with multiple
Is that
drivers.
RPMS?
No, it's not RPMS. It's Temptation something.
Okay, yes, I got you. Indeed. It is interesting. A lot of these cars, of course, custom wrapped, custom liveries on them. That one looks like livery didn't make it on that particular car, but another example, custom liveries for the custom cars. And like Stewie said earlier, maybe if you weren't with us, just to reiterate, just about half the field or more have a custom wrapped car for this series. That is quite notable. Usually we have about 7, I would say, 7 or 8 per grid. This have 50%. It's incredible. Minnie Simeon playing the part of Garfield, saying, I hate Mondays, but I love racing. Hey, you and me both. Huge grid, a lot of cars to get through. 53 cars. There was an anime on that car as well. 53
And we just about made it.
Yes! 53. I noticed you scroll wheeled at some point. You sped up a little bit. 53 cars on the grid for today's race. Split 1 and Split 2, both with you if you were with us last week.
Widget GP. You see that on the side.
I see that, but I don't know what that means. We covered Split 1 and Split 2 last week. We showed you highlights of Split 2 and the full race of Split 1. We will continue to do that throughout the series where the races are split up. Today, though, because we are at a track that can accommodate 50-plus cars, the splits are racing together, but they are still separate in the championship. Some other things to get you set up. There is a potential threat of rain today. You can tell it is sunny right now here in Silverstone circuit, but there is a 28% chance of weather hitting us today. And this is not a 60-minute race as well. This is 90 minutes. This is an hour-and-a-half race. And on top of all of that, 2 mandatory pit stops, Stu.
Yeah, I mentioned that before. We're going to see a few different strategies, I think. Like 2 that I can think of off the top of my head would be go as long as possible with the first tire set and fuel, then do the same again, and just make both pit stop. The one pit stop just at the end, basically just a drive-through to reset the. Oh no, you don't have to. Yeah, just to do the pit stop. So go in the pits, stand for like 3 seconds, and then reset it, or you just split it in 3 30-minute stints. So did we actually say what the requirements are? Because it's no tires required, so it's only 1 liter of fuel required. So yeah, that opens quite a lot of possibilities.
And as far as I can tell, looking at the regulations we have, there is no minimum time that you have to be stopped. A lot of these championships, the minimum time stopped in the box is 25 seconds. I don't think that applies here. It's just the 1 liter, so you're down and gone. But it is a 90-minute race, Stewie. Tires come into play. Surely one of those stops, you would like to put new tires on the car.
Yeah, that's basically what I meant. So you drive an hour, you change the tires, you drive 30 minutes, or you drive 30 minutes, change tires, drive another 30 minutes, change tires again. It all depends on where you are on the grid, what the people around you are doing, and yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I don't think the race is going to be purely one on pace as we go on the grid here, and I need to prepare my drone.
53 cars for round number 2 of the Mini British GT Championship. Wherever you're watching in the world, we are glad you're with us. Like, subscribe. You're not going to want to miss this race. You're not going to want to miss this championship. This is only round 2 of a 7-round championship. Jesse Lee, Stewie with you, bringing you the call here on a Monday evening, afternoon, morning. Doesn't matter. We're here at Silverstone. We're ready to race, but they're not, because they've got to get all of these cars on to the GT straight before they release them. Still not releasing. They'll be well past the gantry when they go green, and they are. The flag goes down, the lights come on. Shelgren on the pole position, trying to outfox other drivers like Kuzma, who would very much like to get involved, and several cars off immediately into cops. They regain a pirouette and back into the fray. Safe rejoin, absolutely mandatory here as they all get back together, but they're 3 wide going into Maggots. That is a dangerous affair, and a further damage here as they exit Maggots and into Beckett's. Oh, and it's a huge kerfuffle between the 2 corners. Several cars off. The track almost blocked. The 699 is around, at least that I can see. Many cars besides. It's looking a little bit like a graveyard.
Yeah, we couldn't quite catch what happened there exactly because we're so far, but we will probably have a replay of that. And that was quite a lot of cars.
Chris Downing involved. John Razor involved.
I don't think we have live stewarding here, right?
We don't have live stewarding. Biamonte and the number 5 also heavily involved. 4 wide down into the chicane. That is incredibly dangerous to do that they've just about made it work as they all go through club. But several cars involved. Biamonte, one of the cars that was well up in the points for Split 2, has reset to the garage. The 42 has now gone off as well. Looks like the
Oh, there's another
404
big
has had an
crash.
incident. Oh, and that's a big one. I think that's coming through Abbey and the farm curve. The 404 is around. They have reset. I can't quite see the numbers on some of these cars. The 14 for sure, maybe the 301 car as well have also been around. We'll try to bring you as many replays as we can when we can. But this is the complete opposite start from what we had a week ago. It has been absolute bedlam.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to help me out a bit with telling me what numbers we can look at, because there's a lot of contacts, and I'm not quite sure which ones are the ones that we're looking for.
Oh, Jordan Daly in the pit lane as well. Had a bad round one. They've had a bad start here today as well in the pit lane for the 197.
I think the first one that I can see would be the big one that we saw last, which would be the 404. This
is Martin Lawrence. This is the 404. They're going 3 wide, and that's never going to work. Doesn't work whenever Lewis Hamilton tries to do that on Max 2 wide. It's not going to work 3 wide in a GT car going through Abbey, and it went completely wrong there. The 404 returned to the garage. The 44 of Martin Foster, now he's out in front. What happens? Oh, he gets tagged by Kevin Boss because the accident with Martin Lawrence already occurred. Everybody scrambling, trying to get through. Many succeeding, some not. Huge kerfuffle. I also saw Harry Conway and Ted Edwards also in the pit lane. Don't know if they returned to garage or they just got a piece of that and decided to pit. Unknown. We'll see if they return to the track. Absolute chaos in the middle of this field. Meanwhile, up front, Nico Kumpu finds themselves in the middle of a sandwich here. This is one of the original accidents. John Arazer was one of the first to arrive on the scene. Did he have help? Yeah, you bet he did.
Yeah, this was the lap 1 incident. I'm not sure if that's what caused the big carnage, but that was definitely one of the things that started it. Here we just saw an overtake from Bava on Hartmann, I think. So a lot of cars out already, but there's still fights going on everywhere. Even at the front of the grid, we have Kuisma still very close behind Kjellgren, and build a tiny gap to Keller there, as they're already approaching traffic to lap.
I was just going to say that this is a dangerous proposition, as that car is just going to look like it ditched it out of maggots. Oh, and was there an issue on that pink car? Because I'm quite sure there's a barrier out there, and that Lamborghini has certainly found it. But what I was going to say was Kuisma did their absolute best to try and get around Kjellgren on the initial start, made it too wide, made it difficult for Kjellgren, but was ultimately able to clear Kuisma. And now they run 1-2, no time lost there. The only problem for the two leaders, of course, is Keller, third in line there, has the quickest lap of the race. By the way, the fastest Estonian sim racer says, did Conway die already? Unfortunately, yes, he did. Various comments coming in from the chat, trying to give us a little direction here in the booth as well. As for the numbers of the cars involved, probably just all of them.
Yeah, that's just going a bit wide here.
Verstappen just deciding that farm curve doesn't exist for him.
I was trying to make the overtake on Hartmann, and then too wide through that corner. It rarely works. Yeah, there were just too many contacts. I think what we're going to do is, at the end of the race, just have a look at the 3 or 4 major accidents that happened at the start and on the first 1 or 2 laps, because it's impossible for me to actually find out which one of these it was. So we can just look at the racing here.
Yeah, as the dust starts to settle just a little bit, Mike Redford has the lead in the silver class over Forster. Forster down to 20th place. Mike Redford up to 16th place. Redford was a little frustrated with his qualifying today. He was a little frustrated with his race last week as well. Reckoned he could have been on for something a bit more special than it ended up being today. Certainly looks like he's got the Mike Racing McLaren in a position to do just that. Carlos Kaladian says months of work and setup for this. Claudia, of course, collected in that accident. We mentioned all the cars that we've said thus far have been involved in the accident in some way, most of which have come out of the pit lane and continued. Several cars still sitting in the pit lane. Kevin Boss in the 31 wheelie slow Lamborghini sitting in the pit lane that I can see from my commentary position, and I think I just saw the 84 or the 44. It's the 44, in fact, sitting down there as well in pit lane. There's other cars too. Several of the cars involved have returned to the fight. Andy Boardman for Grease Weasel Racing, 17th place, right behind the Split 2 leader of Mike Redford. Boardman's trying to get a move on here. How hard does Redford fight him?
I don't think Redford will be trying to defend that position as hard as he can, especially because there's 3 cars. It's getting very close here. There are 3 cars between him and the P2. And we can see him just opening the door, letting Boardman through. Probably the safer choice at the moment. And this is Bava on Kumpu, trying to make the pass into the last section here on the inside.
Ooh, pinched him down there. They're going to escape with it here. And it's going to bring Christopher Strepen into the mix here. They're going to get a free position, a little bit of a contact. Verstappen moving the 747 up a position in between them, says, thank you very much, I'll have it.
Yeah, Verstappen going really forward here.
Oh, Keller! Keller's in the lead of this race. Shelgren and Kuzma by Shelgren, but now, oh wait, never mind. Wait, what is it doing? This is, I can't work in these conditions. What is it? Where is he?
Definitely not in P1, that's for sure.
He's definitely P2. He is in second here. I'm quite sure of it now.
I'm pretty sure he's P3.
I don't think he is. Isn't that?
Oh no, it's P2, you're right.
Yeah, Kuzma took the lead from Shelgren. Keller has taken second from Shelgren themselves. That's the position they're in. And despite timing and scoring deciding to absolutely make me look stupid,
Yeah,
I think we've just about figured that out. Oh, is he P3? Well, what is he? Oh, so he is P3. We don't know what the live timing's doing. It's all over the place. That's actually Aaron Trout that is in the picture as well.
Aaron Trout is coming from behind. This is Aaron Trout. He's coming from behind. And this is the fight between Keller and Kjellgren. Well, now a triple fight.
Now Keller has made the move on Shelgren. We do apologize. Our timing and scoring, you can clearly see it on your screen. Our timing and scoring was jumping all over the place. It was impossible to tell.
It still is, by the way.
Yeah, it's not settled out, has it really? Aaron Trout trying to make the move for P3. We do know that. This is Shelgren, your pole sitter, fighting Thomas Aaron Trout for that position. Kuzma out in front in the 777, all lucky there. Didn't quite see the move being made live, but guaranteed has got it done and dusted and has left Keller in the dust just about 2 seconds now.
And all this fighting basically reduced the gap from the cars behind by quite a lot, and now we have Ulrich, Lang, Kumpu and Verstappen all within reach of the podium basically. I'm not sure how many cars of the top 10 got collected into in one of the lap 1 or lap 2 accidents, but yeah, most of these drivers came from a bit further back here.
Yeah, it's certainly the case too, isn't it? We saw one of the initial accidents that happened in the comps started around P7 or 8. Several cars spun around, 3 of them, but all those cars were largely able to continue. One of the cars that I noticed that had rejoined after that initial incident got into a further incident as we got into Maggots, and sort of in between the 2 corners of Maggots and Beckett's, they had a subsequent collision, and that sort of started the massive fracas that occurred for the very first time. They made it a further several corners. They got to Valen Club, and then another incident occurred, and then they got to Abbey and Farm Curve, and there was, you guessed it, another incident. All that happening on lap 1 has jumbled the order up quite a bit. Kuzma, though, did it the hard way, took the lead of this race, and is driving away as gapped Keller by another 10th and a half just in the time I've been talking.
Yeah, and it wasn't something with Temptation, by the way. It's the Limitless Speed Drivers team that I was talking about on the grid, which
yes.
we have like 3 or 4 cars here. defending
of which,
against Ulrich, who tried to make the move.
Ulrich went in there, had a look, but the inside, a little bit too much to overcome. Tobias Lang for the limitless speed drivers, able to make that position stay on for them. Everything sort of settling down for the moment, and maybe just for a moment, just a reminder, the amber number 2 you see on the timing and scoring pylon, that is how many pit stops they are required to do. They are required to do 2 in this 90-minute race, and the requirement is just a liter of fuel. They don't have to sit in the box for any prolonged period of time, and they do not have to change tires, though we would probably suspect most teams would change tires in one of their stops regardless.
This is a contact between the number 3 and Andy McCrory. Who's the number 3?
Dale Earnhardt.
That was Harry Conway.
Yeah, so I said Dale Earnhardt.
Ah.
He's doing it for Dale. He's doing it for Dale. He's doing it for Brevin as well. Repping some of his favorite music, and Brevin Kim, the musical artist on that number 3 Triple R Lamborghini. The name of the album, of course, displayed on the side of the car as well. I've listened to that album. Pretty good album. Conway's actually expanded my music horizons a little bit as well. Car looks good, and unfortunately involved in that early incident, but back out there right now. This battle still continuing. Verstappen and Kumpu all over each other, fighting for this spot. It's flip-flopped a little bit, and he's finally made it stick. It's not been a good corner for Nico Kumpu, the JP Motorsports car. That's going to invite, I believe that's Hartman, to come on through, and is the 55 of Hartman, one of those other limitless speed cars, making up positions in the top 10. Nico Kumpu is going to be frustrated and furious with that. Lost 2 spots in 2 corners.
I think he went too wide with Ulrich in the corner before the straight and then just lost all the momentum. So now Verstappen up to P7 here and right behind Ulrich already. Do you remember where Chris started the race? Because I feel like it was like P12, P13. So he's made up a lot of places, and up until last lap or the lap before, actually held the fastest lap of the race as well.
That's true. Remember, Keller held it early on in the race, the first couple of laps. Verstappen took it, and now Griezmann now has the quickest lap, and that's a dangerous proposition for anyone trying to win this race, because Griezmann leads the race, and when you're the quickest car out in front, again, bad news for everybody else. Martin Ulrich trying to keep Verstappen at bay. Verstappen hard charging right about it. Started somewhere around the 10th place position, and he's coming through field just a little bit. Everybody's heart rate returning to normal. Everybody calming down just a little bit. I know we are. Take a deep breath. I'm taking a deep breath here. These drivers are probably holding their breath a little bit. Here is one of the RPMS Sim Sport cars. Richard Phillips behind the wheel, trying to work their way around the 77 of Stevens. Stevens taking the inside of the corner. Will he run a little bit wide here? Can Phillips get a run? No, they cannot. Continue as they were through Stone.
Here we have the leader of Split 2 at the moment. Very close behind John Schulze. Not sure how aggressive he's going to be to try and clear that car, because it looks like he's been held up a bit over the last few laps. Still has a gap to Forster behind, but it's not too much. It's only, what's that, like 3 seconds? So he's not completely in the clear yet, and obviously wants to go forward to secure the win in the end.
By the way, we're being told that potentially Verstappen started in 6th place, so maybe something happened to have to take avoiding action or something to the 747, and they fell down the order just a little bit, and they're getting some of those spots back. Even if that did happen, what his pace tells me is I don't think he got involved in an accident per se, because the car would not have quite as good a speed as it does right now had he damaged the tires or something to do with the aero in the car. So maybe just slowing down, being a little extra cautious earlier on made him lose out initially. Maybe he had to hit the brakes or ditch the car just a little bit to stay out of some of the incidents. Don't know. But back That's where he started, according to the chat. Eagle Eye Chat, thank you very much. John Racers joined us in chat saying that they felt that they were quite safe on the start. Well, unfortunately for the 699, not enough to keep them out of trouble. Mayhem can find you anywhere in a 50-plus car grid.
It's down to 46 now, which is still a lot, but we lost seven cars already. It's less than I thought, as Hartmann here braking very late and just barely making it. Here we have Tim Ireland, the event manager for this this whole thing, being attacked by Van der Keulen. And it looks like Van der Keulen wants to get by here real fast and just loses the car on the exit, but no contact and going too wide into the next corner.
Yeah, for Van der Keulen, they need to get a move on. Keep in mind, they were the championship leader. They had such a great first round. You can't immediately come into the next race and lay an egg. You have to keep up the rhythm and keep up the pace. Being quite calm and collected there. This is Ulrich in front. Oh, no. And it's big contact there. Hartmann and Ulrich going around, and I'm quite sure that that was in Village. And they've spun around. That's going to drop them down the field. Several other cars are going to get a boost from that, of course. Oh, my goodness. Near contact there again. Is there further, oh no, is there further contact in the loop? Yes, there is. Hitting the Sky car. Hartmann goes for another slide off of the tarmac in the loop.
Yeah, that lost him a lot of places. Down to P20 now, or P19, whichever one of these standings is correct. And the car looks a bit damaged here with the understeer.
Certainly would. Had a big frontal impact and then a side impact as well. That's not going to do anything for your aerodynamics, surely. Tom Watts, the dropping the hammer 42. They're doing more than dropping the hammer, all chasing this man, the best first name in sim racing, Lee Kettle. Oh my goodness, what is this? Is this a car moving completely out of the way? That is what it is. Lee Kettle does not want to get involved in Tom Watts and Jordan Daly fighting over that position. Will he do the same for Harry Conway, who's now trying to come through? No, he doesn't. Not initially anyway. Ditches the car in Beckett's. Does let the split one car through. That is a driver from split two who just does not want to get involved with any fight that's not his own. That is, you don't often see somebody that eager to get out of the way, but in that case, kind of makes sense. You got these hard charging cars that you know should probably be somewhere vaguely near the top 10. Just get them away from you.
And here we have the fight for P9 between Makov, Manso and Boardman behind. And wasn't Boardman involved in an incident at the start as well, or am I just misremembering that?
That was
that was the 699.
Yeah. Andy Boardman, I believe, escaped that, and that's quite interesting as well, because Boardman, having an onboard from Boardman would have been awesome, because I feel like Boardman was probably right behind a couple of those accidents, so their ability to not get involved there, quite incredible. Grease Weasel, though, this is their perspective, looking at Yao Manso and Mikov up in front. Said racing for that 9th place position. I feel like Boardman has a little bit more speed than both of these cars, but look at him. He's being patient here, not overdriving the race car, realizing it's a long old race. Normally we'd be about halfway done, but not the case today. Still more than an hour of racing left to go. Nobody into the pit lane that hasn't had issues thus far. Nobody trying to do the very, very long undercut. I think pretty much what you explained earlier on. I think we're going to break this up into thirds in the race and probably get some tires somewhere near the end.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see in 10 minutes if we actually see people pit early. My assumption is that the drivers at the front of the grid, as Boardman here, capitalizing on the mistake of Manso, who braked a bit late and went wide on the exit, and that let Boardman through on the inside. Yeah, I don't think the drivers at the front of the grid will go for an early pit stop, because they would just want to spend as little time in the pit as possible, which means only swapping tires once. So I would assume that most of them maybe even do a 45-minute stint, then another 45-minute stint, and just a splash and dash at the end. But yeah, maybe drivers further in the back of the grid will go for an early stop to get out of traffic, like this, for example, and yeah, just get a cleaner road and then switch up the strategies a bit.
Both of the championship leaders coming into this round have had a frighteningly frustrating day thus far. We covered a little bit earlier on. Tim Ireland has been around with that contact or self-inflicted. No, that's absolutely contact with the Ferrari. Is not what you want to have happen up in Stowe, but unfortunately did indeed happen. That is not Tim Ireland in the RPMS car. I was going to ask, I was like, when did he get signed? Richard Phillips there, continuing to go along. But back to my previous comment, Van der Woede's had their issues, and so has Phil Roberts, running 37th place, an absolute nightmare for a man who dominated last week.
Here we have yeah, Phillips following the very, you know what that looks like, the static screen on the TVs when there's no connection bit.
Did
at least the color scheme.
Did you have those hidden picture books in Germany when you were a kid, Stewie? The ones where you had to make yourself go cross-eyed to see the image? Did you have those?
I don't remember those. I remember these ones where you had like a kind of transparent page, and then you had a lamp, which is not a lamp, it's just a piece of cardboard or something with a bright spot at the top, and then you had to hold them behind the transparent stuff to see what's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
For example, like deep sea stuff, so you just see a very dark page, and then you can take the lamp to highlight some fishes or something.
Stewie, you have unlocked a core memory in my brain. I completely forgot about those. Oh my goodness.
I mean, I haven't thought about these ones in probably, I don't know, 20 years or more, until you just mentioned the books, which I don't remember.
For everybody at home that can now smell 1999 and have just tasted nostalgia, I always describe that in the past, that whenever you unlock a memory like that, you're almost tasting whatever era. It's like it's hard to explain, but it transports you mentally back to a different time. Anyway, but for those of you that don't know what we're on about, we will carry on with the race. Here's a replay. Christoph Verstappen continuing to march back up the field, was P6, going the long way around the outside. This move can indeed work as long as you can stick it. He hasn't done on this occasion, going through the loop, right back to on his bumper, but unable to make the move. Van der Kolen, I may have mistaken Woods and Van der Kolen, we apologize for that, but here is Van der Kolen, the dominant split 2 car from round number 1, also having a little bit of strife here. Has a little bit of an easier road, if we're completely honest with ourselves. They've got by Byford, at least, on this lap, and that puts them up one more spot in their position, and they're just about inside the top 5 in split 2. So it's not a complete disaster for your 2 times winner. Ooh, contact there between Hartman and is that
Kingston Lee?
Is that Forster?
Yes.
That was Kingston
Lee.
Lee.
Kingston Lee. Yep. Yeah, I think that Van der Kolen got led by Byford there because the Audi was side by side and then lifted. So, I mean, it's P6, so it's interesting that even the driver in P6 would let Van der Kolen by. That's still some points there. I would expect this behavior from like more further down the grid. They know the driver's quicker, so they just don't want to lose time with a useless fight. But yeah, kind of an easy going so far, as you mentioned, for Van der Kolen so far. And he's about 2.5 seconds down the road to Lee Kettle. And yeah, Verstappen still behind Lang. Can't really get by.
I love the outpouring of people in chat. We've hit them with a nostalgia wave. They've revealed that there are a lot of people that do remember that. Thank you, of course. Thank you for everyone for validating my childhood, I suppose. Though I wasn't technically a child in 1999, but Limeril remembers exactly what I'm talking about. And hey, there's no shame in being an older sim racer, I know some folks from back in my iRacing day. Like they were old guys, they could take it to the young folks. That still is the case today. You can see that in race in some instances. I'm not going to out some people. You know some of the ages of the older gentlemen in this race. I'm going to out them though, but they're there and they're absolutely putting in some work. But anyway, thank you for remembering that memory. Magic Picture, I believe, Stewie, was an actual name brand of that particular thing. I think they came by different names. Magic Eye. Actually, I just it's quite strange. Some people can't focus their eyes correctly to see them. I always thought that was funny. Put it in perspective. Magic Eye, trying to focus to see the picture beyond the picture, was my generation's is the dress purple or white?
But look, were those actual pictures or just like shapes and stuff? Because that's what I remember, not as like books that you just buy or something, just these, I don't know, pictures where there's some weird shapes, and then when you cross your eyes, you see something else.
Yeah, it was yeah, that's correct. It was a pattern, but Magic Eye, which I believe was the name brand or company, they would compile books that you could buy at book fairs when I was a kid. Anyway, off the nostalgia trip and back to the racing. 1 hour and 2 minutes left in the race. You've got an hour to put in both of your pit stops. Nobody doing that. Oh, and it's contact. It's contact between Schultz and Phillips, and they've went around, and that will allow Andre Hartman for Limitless through. Let's take a look. Show me what you... Oh, my goodness. Just too much speed in there. And, well, that is as cut and dry as it possibly could have been.
Talking about pit stops, Mike Redford already did his pit stop.
Well, exactly like what I said. Some cars already coming in to do this. That's interesting. The leader of Split 2 in the pit lane already done with her pit stop. What do you make of that?
I'm not sure. That's after what, like 28 minutes? That's a weird strat, I would call it. But we'll see how that works out in the end. Maybe he was just stuck in traffic and yeah, wanted to have a clear road, which there's not a lot of this track today with that many cars. Here's in Ireland fighting, and Bar actually got by him already. We have two other cars that are just in the pits, Richard Phillips and Beckhoff, I think, just came out of the pits. So
Yep.
yeah, quite a few cars that go for the early pit stop. Boardman making the move on Roscam. Looked like on the outside, so let's have a quick look here. For the Porsche, understeering a bit, not having the grip, and then Boardman just sending it around the outside.
He just drove around him.
Yeah, I mean he would have driven into him if he didn't go around him, so it's good that he did that.
Well, yeah, it's absolutely good, but just his ability, one little bobble, and Boardman able just to drive around the outside of a somewhat tight corner and make that look routine, almost pedestrian looking at overtake, but good heads-up driving there. We just saw an example of what can happen when that goes wrong. Certainly not looking for that. So, with the Split 2 leader of Redford in and out of the pit lane, that hands over the lead to Forster as many cars come in. You just saw Yao Manso come into the pit lane, and so has Hartman. Forster is going to give up the lead in the Split 2 class. Still nobody from the top 10 thereabout coming in just yet. A lot of these cars in the middle of the pack making that decision, coming in and doing that stop. But this is right about when you would expect them if you're breaking up your two stops. This is right about when you would think that. Oh, and it's been contact. Mike Redford is around. The 505 involved of Byford. Both of the cars spinning down to the inside of the track, and that's the last corner left field. Very strange place to have an incident. Was some of those cars trying to come down to pit road? I think they might have been. A little bit of confusion, some pace difference as well. Mike Redford, your clear leader in Split 2, has had an incident here. Oh, no, the Porsche from behind.
Yeah, I think the Porsche just didn't realize how slow the car ahead of them was and just drove into Redford here. Also, just something I wanted to mention. Most of the people that went into the pits did not change tires based on the pit stop times. We have Jordan Daly, Conway, Manso, Mekov, Vanderkul, and all with about 40 seconds of pit stops. Redford, also one of them, so also didn't change tires. And then we have Hartman, Forster, De Jong, Phillips, another Forster. Wait, we have a Forster and a Foster. Oh, that's not confusing at all.
I'm pretty sure we do. I screwed that up last week too, but nobody called me on it.
Yeah, all of these drivers with about 1 minute 10, 1 minute 5 pit stops. So already seeing different kind of strategies, even within the people that did an early pit stop.
A lot of different strategies. You typically see that. The last race that I recall where we had the 2 pit stops in this configuration, the one that I remember, we were at Snetterton, and it was a very diverse pit strategy. You would think that most people would settle on one thing or the other, but it's actually further from the truth. There's 3 or 4 different ways you can go about it. Everyone thinks that they have the right call, and of course also your right call is contextual based on where you're running, what you're doing, who, if you're in the middle of a battle, if you're not in the battle, if you're leading, etc. You get my point. So all of that goes into when you come in and what your decision is. Close here between Verstappen racing Lang for 4th place. Now, is that a legal overtake for Verstappen? I don't think it matters now. Keep in mind, no live stewarding for this event. It's all done post-race, and saw, I believe that was a Razor mentioning that he had some reports to file. Surely,
I mean,
early melee.
I don't think Chris really had a choice here, because he had to avoid Lang on the inside there, so he had a compromised line into the right-hander, which meant he was going right. Yeah, don't think there's anything to report here. But finally got by after, must have been 5 laps, or even more than that. So let's see how quickly he can pull a gap here to see how much faster he really was.
I think chat might agree with you on that case, Stewie.
Do they? Yeah, avoiding action. Yeah. Ted Edwards here, following Mike Redford. I don't think Redford lost too much time. Don't have the lap time anymore, but luckily he didn't hit the wall and he could turn around quite quickly. But I still think he lost the position to... and now we have it. Was it Foster or Forster who was P2? So I think it was Forster, right?
It's Forster, I believe.
They both drive a Ferrari as well.
Yeah.
And both start with M.
Of course. Well, why would they make it easy for us? I believe it's Forrester that actually was P2 at the time. I don't believe it was Foster. So Forster, remember, who was leading the Split 2 class down to 30th because they have done their stop. Now, to Stewie's credit, right, Redford was very quick to get the car back in order and maintain the position on the 50 car. Forster has also completed the first of their 2 stops. Now, what on earth has happened up at the front of this field? Guizma, who has enjoyed a easy run of it thus far, has been caught by Keller, and somewhat right behind them, this is going on. Tobias Lang getting it all wrong. Looks like that car wasn't handling very good at the time of that overtake. And just a replay there, I see why Verstappen went around the outside there. Like Tobias's car, just a little of sorts. Lang has more issues right behind him. He's got Kumpu behind him, and if he isn't too sharpish, he's going to, excuse me, Andy Boardman coming up behind him as well.
And something must have happened between Verstappen overtaking Lang and us going back here, because he lost another position to Kjellgren, which we didn't see. And that is about 3 seconds down the road from Chris, so looks like Lang may be struggling a bit on the rear tires here and making some mistakes. As he's now back in the McLaren fight. Maybe we'll see him pit soon to just swap the rubber out there.
Could be. Might have a little bit of damage. You can't really tell. If it's significant, you really can just by looking at the race car, but don't see any unusual marks on the on any of the cars in this train, in fact. So maybe a little bit of splitter front damage. Looking at the front splitter of the 94, we're riding off board of Shelgren, but I think we can see, I can detect a little something on the front splitter of that car. Yeah, there's definitely damage there. And there's definitely damage onto the diffuser as well for the limitless speed 94. So that might be certainly adversely affecting them. There was a time where if you damage this car in the front or the back at all, the old McLaren 720, not the Evo, it became almost undrivable. That's not the case with the Evo, but still affects you just like it does with any other race car. So dealing with that, certainly. Joe Dauber brings the Jaguar into the pit lane. For those of you that love the older cars, there was an M6 in this race. There's a couple of Lexuses. There's a couple of those in the race. There's obviously the Jaguar in the race as well. There's a V12 Aston running around somewhere, deafening people as it roars by.
Well,
there might even be a 488 in this race as well.
Really? I don't think so. But
are you sure? Am I remembering a different championship I'm calling?
We can
where somebody's entered a 488.
Yeah, there's no 488 in this one. Nope, it's all the new ones. But
gotcha.
Look at this. Max Forster just passed George Barr here on this lap. And Forster's on one pit stop. Oh, I see why. I just cleared my own confusion. I was confused why Van der Keulen with one pit stop was also ahead, but the three drivers in silver, Van der Keulen, Withall and Redford, all did not change tires, so with a about 40-second pit stop, and Forster did change tires already. That's why we see this current order here of the silver championship. And Niku Kumpu in the pits right now. That's the first driver of the, what is that, top 15 actually in the pits right now. And this looks like this could be a tire stop, which would be a bit earlier than I thought, but about the 45-minute mark for the half-half stints. And once he crosses the exit line, we will see if he in fact did change tires. And that is a 1:05 for the pit stop. So yes, Niku Kumpu changing tires here. So probably going for, what was that, 40 minutes and another 10 minutes maybe at the end. And behind Conway. So Conway, one of the earliest pitters in Pro. Actually behind more people. It's E21, the actual position. So dropped behind Van der Keulen with that pit stop.
Nico Kumpu out of the pit lane, serving their first stop. It's quite interesting. We were talking about Forster earlier on. They've already got their stop done for tires. That tells me that they stand to gain a little bit here coming up. Oh, and it's BMW hard into the wall. Eddie, oh, what on earth happened to cause that? That looked like severe miscommunication, but Eddie hard into the wall. Didn't get there by themselves, but I have no idea what set up that incident to begin with.
It looked like the second car that went by couldn't really see the slow car because of the other Ferrari ahead, and then just saw them on the side, didn't think they were that slow and didn't have time to react. That's the only explanation without blaming the driver, I guess. Because that was just straight into the back of the other car, like no avoiding action, didn't really look like there was any brakes involved. Really peculiar incident. And this is
we've seen
Tobias Lang in the pits, by the way.
Tobias Lang brings the 94 into the pit lane, and we were wondering if they would be one of the first to come in from the top 10. They are. They're just about the second car from the top 10 to come in. That's their first stop done and dusted. We'll see if this was a tire stop. Certainly a damage repair, you'd have to imagine, for them.
Yeah, the car suddenly doesn't look as damaged anymore. But couldn't have been a lot because only a 1:05 stop, so maybe 2 or 3 seconds slower than the fastest pit stop with tires. And where did he come out? Ahead of Kumpu, but just barely. So maybe he also just pitted because he saw Kumpo pit. They were fighting before the pit stop as well. Here we have Conway and Daly fighting. Daly currently the leading car from the ones that did one pit stop already. And another thing, Van der Keulen already on the second pit stop.
Yeah, Van der Keulen into the pit lane, doing their stop, and that will release them. I just want to go back to Daly and Conway really quickly. Something interesting about them. I'm now not sure. I saw them in the pit lane, and I would have sworn they were both involved in that lap 1 chaos, but I don't know if they were now. As far up the field as they are, it's very possible they weren't involved, and they just pitted at the end of lap 1 as if that was their plan all along. So they may have sold me a dummy there, and the 197 and the 3 may have not been involved, but scary moment for Van der Keulen here, and this is just cold tires coming out of the pit lane, maybe a little bit of curb action too. Oh yeah, way too far over the curb.
Very quick reaction and a good save here for Van der Keulen, who, by the way, did... that was the car that we saw drive into another car just like a minute ago. And he did repair about 10 seconds of damage, plus changing tires. So maybe they also just pitted because they had the accident and they noticed the car was a bit broken. Or it was just their plan all along, because about 45 minutes changing the tires could be the strategy. And it's a bit mixed in the grid right now, hard to tell who's actually in what position. Aaron Trout coming out of the pits right now and should be behind Conway. So Daly still the leading car for the ones that pit already.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? Seeing those cars out there in front. This is important. Harry Conway and Jordan Daly, they're friends. They know each other. They race together. They share liveries. And in addition to that, they race for the same team a lot of the time. And for them to be in a situation right here where you have to race, and I will say Conway's in the less advantageous position of, well, how do I do this? I know Daly's running for this championship still, and I'm a mid-season sign-up. I'm trying to get involved, but how gently do I do this? How aggressive am I with somebody who I have direct contact with? Saw some cars in the pit lane. Saw Andre Hartman there making a pass, making it stick and getting it done down into club. Not an easy proposition, surely. Able to get it load up and make the pass. Tim Ireland a little bit further back in the pack. Still 2 pit stops left to do.
Was that the same BMW that we saw 2 minutes ago that got crashed from behind? I think it was. Maybe they just... that's the 924, I think the one that we saw in the wall a bit earlier as well. Or maybe the car just very damaged and that's why they're going quite slow at the moment.
The Jordan Daly fan club piping up in chat saying that Conway better play it safe or he's going to have me to answer to. Some fighting down in the pits perhaps by Becky here. Another mid-season sign-up. Talked a lot about them today. Oh, he's going to get squeezed here by Dauber in the Jaguar. It's 2 British makes at a British racetrack going side by side. A little bit of contact. Hey, the cars have a fender for a reason. Try not to wreck them, though. Set him back straight. Got him back on the track. Becky, though, not going to be too fond of that maneuver. Said, hey, I gave you the space. Why didn't you give me a little bit of the respect? 157 with all has been off the racetrack in Maggots and Beckett's, trying to rejoin now. And off the track there, was that Vanderwood that just drove off the track? It was.
Ted just scared him off the road by the looks of it. And we have Daly just coming out from the second pit stop. As we see his SG30 there for Boardman.
Oh no! Speeding in the pit lane for Andy Boardman, the 69 Ferrari. They were in such a good position in this race. They've already done one of their stops. And now, speeding in the pit lane will bring them down a 3rd time today, and that will dash their chances of a decent finish here. How many times have we seen it? A good race coming undone with a silly penalty like that. Keep in mind, No live stewards. That is ACC assigned.
And you talked before about Conway and Daly, if they did the first lap thing, and I forgot that I can actually check that, and they did. They hit it on lap 0, so basically before crossing even the line once. Based on the time, they had no damage.
Right.
And yeah, then now at the halfway point, they pit for the tires.
Well, then
yeah,
in that case, my apologies to those two cars who pit lane was littered with race cars. I was calling numbers sitting under our commentary position, and they were not damaged. They just took that opportunity to get their stop done and get into clean air. And why not? It absolutely worked for both of them, you have to say.
Indeed, it did. And we see Christopher Verstappen coming out of the pits, and he actually lost time to Lang and Kumpu. If you remember, Verstappen made the move on Lang and was about 2 or 3 seconds ahead. But yeah, he pitted. Where's it? Lang in lap 19 and Verstappen in lap 22, so only 3 laps in between those two. But he still lost about 5 seconds of time. A bit of that also in the pit for repairing damage. And it looks like most of the top 15 are doing the pit at 45 minutes, change tires, and then just do a splash and dash at the end, which is the exact opposite of what Daly and Conway are doing. Except if you keep the last pit stop to the end, you always still have the chance that if something happens, you can come in, repair the car without doing an extra pit stop. So the strategy from Daly and Conway definitely a bit more risky. And the reward for that is that you have free air at the start. So if you don't start at the front of the grid, but maybe a bit down, P6, 7, 8, 9, 10, it might be worth to go for the early pit stop.
Important pass for Keller here, trying to get by Mikov. Mikov, defensive line, and doing a good job of that through Brooklands this time. Dex trying to keep Keller behind him, and a couple of cars that are a big fan of this. It's Koizma and Shelgren who are in pit lane, along with the best last name in sim racing. They're the last cars to take their stops, but they are doing exactly now in the court again, including your leader, Koizma. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it's showing me João Manso is in front of Koizma, and if that is true, that might be the new leader of the race. Now it's flip-flopping because it's wrong. One car off in front. Mikov trying to be defensive down the inside. The inside becomes the outside, of course, and that's going to allow Keller to get through, and that's just what he's done, but he's got a bad exit. Here comes Mikov back down the straight, the hanger straight, in this occasion, pulling out, looking, trying to collapse on the inside, trying to keep him there. He fans out to get the better arc into Stowe, and he's got it. But the inside, in coming through Vale, Keller's going to have the run, but now he's going to be on the outside of the chicane and club. Can he keep it there? Can he outbreak him? Will there be contact? I don't know. Was there? You be the judge. But won eventually after nearly half a lap of fighting, won by Keller. Jack put up a great fight, but it almost worked. Unfortunately, lost out there as Aaron Trout comes into the picture now, because, of course, you can't be battling here at this racetrack. You lose time hand over fist, and here comes Aaron Trout looking up the inside. Mikov not making a huge defensive move there, just letting him come in the inside of Village. And they're going to be side by side again, no contact there, but I think eventually Aaron Trout is going to win this fight.
Yeah, worth mentioning for this fight, Mikov pitted on lap 13, so pitted on lap 13, didn't change tires, so on quite old tires by now. Aaron Trout and Lang pitted about the 45 to 50 minute mark with fresh tires. The same goes for our leader, by the way. So the standings were correct. Manso is ahead, and that's because he pitted in lap 14 without the tires. So got out of the traffic apparently, and had quite a good run to get by Koizma. But now, of course, Koizma on fresh tires. So I don't think Manso will stay ahead for long, especially with all the straights here, and it might happen now already.
João Manso leads this race in the 222 Porsche over Nico Koizma. but for how long? A discrepancy in the tire right now, one on fresher rubber, one using the same tires they started the race on. That will be a pace difference here. Griezmann probably knows that, right? Based on where he came out. I would imagine, I don't know if Griezmann would have somebody to tell him that, but I don't know if he would need somebody to tell him that. He may just be able to know. And as a racing driver, when you get out there on the track and you catch somebody like you have and you can just turn better than the car in front of you, you kind of just know and assume, oh, they haven't taken tires. And also the fact that Gal's in front to begin with is also a clue there. I think you piece it together in your head. So Griezmann here, not overly aggressive, and that's exactly what you need to have. You need to have a calm head. You got to know, you've got a tire advantage. It's not going anywhere. You've got time. They're giving up time. Wait for them to make a mistake, or if I get a run on them, I'll take it, but I'm not going to dive into the corner. Not going to force anything. I think that's what Nico's doing. I think that's the right approach to do as well.
And yeah, he's just going to be patient. He still has quite a good gap to the car MP3, and I think the Porsche. It's hard to tell what strategy he's going for. So Griezmann doesn't really know if the Porsche is about to pit, maybe, or if it's going to take a while. Talking about pitting, Mekov just coming into the pits. Yeah, but I think Griezmann will just stay in the mirrors for like 2 laps or 3 laps, and the Porsche will make a mistake eventually. And we've just seen 127 in yellow on the road.
The 127, I think, got contact into the chicane. Oh, no, it wasn't contact. It was hopping the sausage curb.
And contact.
Becky. Oh, and there was with the 99, and there was another car. I didn't quite catch the number of that bus, but the CLR car has been destroyed.
And here the move from Griezmann only took 1 lap, and now he's just gonna drive away. We have Hartmann here in the back, still trying to get back the time that he lost earlier with the crash. Currently behind Aaron Jackson. That is something in the low 20s for pros. 23, so P23 and P22. As the car looks very slidey again.
Well,
so maybe it's just a setup issue.
Well, what happened was Jackson was right in front of him. He's got that 99 was damaged. It was also slowing up to come into pit lane, and that caught Hartmann unaware. And that was a self-induced slide to get out from behind the ailing Mercedes, I think, a little bit. It scared him. It scared me. I saw the 99 turn hard and slow down, and the knee-jerk reaction from Andre Hartmann just to not create another incident. I think we've seen a couple of those people coming into pit lane already, but smart move. Maybe a little bit slidey. That definitely didn't help the tires one bit. Now, let's reset the race for you with 35 minutes to go. Almost everybody except Tim Ireland has done at least one stop. Several cars have completed their stops for the day. The leader of those cars is Harry Conway in the RRR number 3 Lamborghini. Jordan Daly, second of those, and Beekhoff, third of those currently. Everybody else in front of them, including Grim Lilith in the 115, who is 4 seconds in front of Conway. They've at least completed one stop. Earlier on, we saw Griezmann make the pass for the lead, or the repass for the lead, and that is where we stand right now. Verstappen lost time in the pit lane. We documented that earlier. They just haven't been able to make much of that up. 1.7 behind Kumpu here, still trying to dig themselves out of the hole, and I think Gap actually going the other direction.
It will take a while until we see the battle for P1 and Silver develop. At the moment, very hard to tell who is actually leading. I don't think it's Mark Redford anymore after the crash he had earlier. There's another SG34 speeding from Rebecca. His day just
to injury.
Yeah, gone from bad to worse. First the self-induced slide, then a car crashing into him, and now this. And he also didn't have the best day last week. think it was one of the two races where he got crashed out, or maybe it was even both of them. So, yeah, not going too well for him in this champ so far. Just surprised where the car went, but Van der Woede into the pits.
Told you there was a V12 in the race, and there it was. There was a battle, a brief battle between those two cars. But Van der Woede coming into the pit lane to serve one of their pit stops. And that is, yes, indeed, the last pit stop that the 38 needs to make it to the finish. Andy Boardman just up in front of that group, the Grease Weasel 69, continuing their endeavors. It's not been a perfect day for them, of course, with the speeding penalty. It was looking like a top 10 was on the cards. That has completely been erased, but they're trying to make up some of this time, get back into it. Of course, they still have to do an additional stop as well, but they can still gain time on several cars in front and improve their position, get better points. This man is an enigma wrapped in a gigantic question mark. Tim Ireland in the 141 National Driving Brilliance car. That's RDB. They have not pitted. They are the only car that I can see that has not ran a single pit stop. Stewie, what on earth is Tim Ireland playing at?
I'm not sure. I think he started quite far in the back as well, so maybe just going for a strat that nobody else is using and seeing if that works out for him. He should come into the pits in one of the next few laps because it's 32 minutes left of the race, which means it's about an hour from the start, so he won't be going for much longer. Then we have a slight idea of where he ended up with his strategy. Obviously, the downside of this is the longer the stint goes on, the slower you get, and there's a lot more people around you with fresh tires. So he probably had to let by quite a lot of people and lose some time with that. And here we see Manso coming into the pits. He's been out for 14 laps. And let's see, that would be... Yeah, we're gonna have to see where he comes out compared to Conway and Daly, because these are still the first cars with 2 pit stops. And this is gonna be a tire stop for Manso, so it's gonna take a while. And here we have Conway. And Daly... Oh, we missed the overtake. Conway actually made the pass on Daly. If I recall correctly, it was the other way around before. And pulled quite a gap already. But let's see, Conway coming onto the start-finish line. Manso just started moving. And we will see it in the timings. Manso behind Conway and still not out of the pits. He's engaging the pit limiter now. And that is still ahead of Markov, so it should be around P5, 4, 5, 6, somewhere around that. And I think that's about where he was when the pit stop started.
John Manso done for pitting for the day. The RPMS Sim Sport car with an anime on it. Out of the pit lane and down the order just a little bit. They cycle through third of the cars that have completed their stops. Just trying to figure out, and I have been admittedly for a while, figure out where exactly Conway is going to come through here. They are likely going to be inside the top 10. The question is where exactly. We'll see when we get there. Most everybody else, the top 15 have to come in for one final stop. Some of them in the top 15 have already changed tires. We've documented that as best we possibly could. Some we know for sure haven't. There's been some damage. Some of the cars clearly they've had to repair as well inside the top 15. That has shaken up some of the running position. Kevin Boss into the pit lane for the final time as well. And for the third time today, we've got a car with a stop and go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. It is Mattea Bava in the back and Tom Shipston into the pit lane. And Joachim Shelgren, Kaiju, who started on pole here today, I just don't know how they're going to feel about this one, Stewie, because on one hand, you started on the pole, you got bonus points for doing so, of course, the 20 or the 33 stopped out of the racetrack. But, oh, Ava, had that stop and go. What happened here?
You've missed what happened. Looks like taking the curb on the inside and just losing the car a bit.
Sure does. Just a weird place to end up on the inside. Well, technically, that's the outside of the racetrack. You know what I mean? It's so weird to end up there without contact. Strange. Either way, it's been a bad day. If you were leading your championship, it's been a bad day. But what I was talking about with Shelgren, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how they feel about this as Max Forrester for Propega Racing. Hey, I should drive for Propega Racing.
And
50 into the pit lane.
Redford passed him, by the way.
So Mike Redford, even with the spin, the contact earlier that sent him off of the racetrack, he pirouetted the car and got that going again. Even with that incident, was not enough to dethrone Mike Redford, who has gotten through, but is Vander Kolen in front of him still.
Yes. The standings on the left should be correct.
So Vander Kolen is leading this race after not qualifying well. Vander Kolen's pitted already. He's done. He's not expected down pit road again. Vander Kolen, who at one point was running outside the top 5, qualified poorly, thought that they were in danger all day. They've been very quiet in the 475 Ferrari. They've driven all the way safely back to the lead. Kolen trying to make it 3 for 3 in this championship. How incredible.
And it wasn't even entirely clean because Kolen was the Ferrari that hit the BMW from behind, so spent an extra 10 seconds in the pits to repair and is still in the lead, which means they had quite the impressive pace. Redford did not have to repair anything and dropped from P1 to P3, so also surprising to see Withall there. Didn't have him on the board at the start of the race. I don't remember where they started, but yeah, Redford losing more time with that spin than I thought, apparently. You also talked about where Conway is coming out, and I think based on the gap between Manso and Conway, I think Conway is leading at the moment. Or at least it's very close with Krizma, because Manso went into the pits being, what was that, 5-6 seconds behind.
You think Conway's going to the lead?
Yeah, Manso was about 5 to 6 seconds behind Krizma when he pitted, and it's about 5 to 6 seconds, or even more, like 7 seconds now to Conway. So I'm pretty sure Conway is leading right now, or at the very least, between Conway and Krizma, it's very close. Which would make sense, because Conway started in P2, didn't he? Or
No.
did he? No, he didn't. He started way further in the back. But yeah, I think...
Started,
Anyways...
As you were saying...
I think the strategy of Conway and Daly worked out quite well, because Daly's also still very close, and that is another crash with Redford, I think.
Oh, was that a crash with the 95? Let's see. Ted Edwards here. Oh, no, not a second time, surely. Oh, no, Redford just gets into the side of
I
Ted
would actually
Edwards.
blame Ted here for that.
Really? Ted was in the middle of the racetrack, sure, in the stone.
Let's have a look at it again. I would say Ted turned in on Redford here.
I see. Oh, boy.
After a second look, not sure. Redford did kind of went, under braking, went further to the left and then kind of crossed the line. Let's just call it a racing incident and have the stewards deal with the details.
Mike Redford could boil coffee on his forehead. He's so upset right now. This race, he had it in his hands. There was nobody within a country kilometer of him. Oh, we're in Britain, I can say miles. There was nobody within a country mile of him. He was leading easily. All he had to do was have a clean race. It's all come undone. And it's all come undone for Grim Lilith in the 115 as they're got to stop go 30. Trevor Byford has spun it around. They've got it going the right way. They use the entire track. The turning circle, of course, on GT cars is absolutely atrocious. You can see the aftermath here. Was there a substitute? Oh, now this is dangerous here. Don't know why you would do that when you had all that open space to flip it around to begin with, but able to get it around without further incident. This is how he got into that state in the first place. The 741 behind him, and how many times have we seen that?
And I agree. I'm not sure why he used the whole track to turn when there's one of the biggest areas besides the track. And Busquets here also off the track, and I think that was self-induced, and it's a weird place to stop. I don't see any contact, so I'm not sure how that happened. Must have hit one of the curbs very wrong and just lost control of the car. And for Busquets, this day is also not going too well. Been crashed into multiple times, crashed themselves multiple times as well by now. And we can see the hood not attached to where it should be anymore.
Well, intermittently, between arguing who has the right to make fun of British people in it, they've determined that the chant has drawn their own conclusion based on the Redford Edwards incident, and I'm going to leave it exactly to them. The other Kaiju car we haven't talked a whole lot about today. There's Aaron Jackson in the 99, sort of in the thick of it right now. He's got Tim Ireland right behind him. Stop left to do it. It's a scary moment. Was that a dip onto the curb that caused it to be so close? I don't know, but that is huge. That was a really well avoided. But what on earth caused that in the first place?
No, he just missed the braking. He was just on the curb and just missed the braking there.
By the way, I'm just doing this for Daly's friend. Shout out to Lancashire. Shout out to Lancashire. There's a whole town. A whole town. Shout out to Lancashire. But moving on, Kevin Boss. Talk about having bad days. It's been a real bad day. Kevin Boss was running inside the top 5 in the championship points. Had a decent round 1 and 2, or a decent race 1 and 2 for round 1. Today, it started off bad, and it never really recovered. 40th place, well down the order in his own class. What is that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's way down there. He's going to lose a ton of points here. This was not exactly what they had in mind. Charlotte Robertson joins us in the number 11 for Hidode Racing. That liveried car, very nice looking Lexus with an anime on the side, as I like to say. I don't know if Kevin Boss has ever had to race Charlotte Robertson before, but look at this.
I think Robertson made it a bit easy here, considering they're one pit stop down. And the car looks very slightly by now.
I was going to say, something's wrong with Robertson's car, surely.
Pit stop was 12 laps ago. Oh, and by the way, you said that on the grid. Bridget is the name of the character, and that's why there's the wordplay with Bridget GP.
Oh, I see. Okay, folks at home, I'm not well versed in anime, right? So if you ever hear me, it's a little game I play. If I see an anime character that I don't recognize, I refer to it as an anime. That is my thing. And usually, Stewie will either know what it is, or he'll be able to figure out what it is, and he'll tell me what it is. I'm an old man, leave me alone. Thank you, Stewie.
Yeah, I do not know this anime, but I mean, that was the only logical thing. And there's one character on the car. Also, Jackson seems to have lost the position to the Jack in the last lap, and now we have a three-way fight here.
Wide.
And car behind, actually a lap down on these two. And
this is
it's gotta be careful.
Situation. Super close coming through Village in the loop. Oh, you got to be so careful, but you can't give anything up now. The final 19 minutes of the race, you got to go for it. Alexander Vanderwood not giving up anything in the 38, but neither is Jackson, trying to claw back positions, trying to get within close proximity of the other split 1 cars, currently in a sea of split 2. But again, you can't ever give up just because of where you are. You got to keep fighting. Vanderwood has to understand here too. They've got way more to lose than Jackson does.
Yeah, indeed, and we can see the strength of the Jack here and the weaknesses at the same time as he's going a bit wide, and that opens the door for the Merc to go too wide, but decides against it. And the car behind has to be very careful to not take out one of these cars. Don't do it!
Why would you say anything? Oh my goodness, it's been that kind of day, and we've almost had another one, but they just about make it happen. And an absolutely frustrated Jackson there on the flasher button, letting him know that that was very much not on. That was not appreciated. Oh, and he comes back on him here.
And that is the last car on the grid, so currently in P last, and not giving up the fight here. I don't think Jackson and Vanderwoode will be very happy with that. And yeah, not sure what the goal of this is, to impede a fight for, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, P6 and P5 in split 2. Oh my god.
Oh, you have to be kidding me. Now that is unfortunate driving, and that has sent Jackson off the racetrack potentially. The Kaiju 99 didn't make it to the wall, but that's going to be effectively their race and battle done. Now this is a huge lunge from a car who isn't really involved in any of the fighting right now. What on earth is going on in this race? Stewie, what did you put in the water bottles today?
Yeah, I think Bava just wasn't aware of how early the Jaguar has to brake there. So I don't think this was intentional, because it was way too far back to start a move there. And it looked like he just barely evaded driving to the back of the Jag. Just touched the side, and that's spicy.
I'm gonna put it this way. I'm gonna put it this way. There's no live stewarding for this event. Obviously, don't have any penalties to give you clearly, but there are going to be, quite often we don't have any reports, because usually the drivers let bygones be bygones and they move on to the next race, because we all know sim racers and racing drivers in general, they either have a goldfish memory or a memory like an elephant, depending on what happens. A lot of times in these series, they just sort of let stuff go and they move on to the next week. I get the feeling that's not going to happen this week. I think there's going to be quite a few reports. It has been that sort of race. 16 minutes to go. The top 9 still have one pit stop left to do. Guizma leads them all. Keller 6 seconds adrift. Aaron Trout a further 6.4 behind them. Lang and Nico Kumpu, this man, rounds out the top 5. Kumpu right behind Lang, as pictured here, trying to make some of those last positions. If Kumpu can make this pass, then get the pit stop, then that is just extra sugar on top of the cake here.
I've just been informed I was calling the Aston Jack. Where are we? Wait, who was that? Oh, it was Vanderwoode. I mean, they do look kind of similar.
Wait, were we wrong here? Was that De Jong who made that that move into the turn that we thought there was a lap down?
No, it was Bava who made the move.
Oh, okay. Just making sure the cars look similar. Just making sure that we were not.
No, this was Bava.
Oh yes, they look. They're the same. Optimal Motorsport.
But I like that now that I've been informed about the mistake. The cars are literally next to each other, and come on, you can see how one would confuse them. Even the colors are. If you squint real hard, they're kind of similar. So.
Are you insinuating that two completely different manufacturers that were both owned by Ford at one point could look the same?
Maybe. Back to the action. Kumpu and Lang fight for P4.
They sure do, and the cars out front, they have 12.5 minutes. You can see the pit window in the middle of the screen. They've got 12.5 minutes to complete their final stop. We're of agreement here in the booth, Stewie and me, that they're going to come in the last possible second. They're going to splash and dash 1 liter of fuel, minimum time, and get out of the pit lane. But that was close between Jordan Daly and João Manso. Manso trying to make this move on the Daly, and he's going to have to go the long way around the outside of the chicane. Will he get it done? No. Falls back in line through the club section. Manso's going to have to take another run for RPMS to make that work. And a huge defensive line here, already going to the middle of the track, just trying to break a little bit of the toe, just trying to posture, just in case Manso catches him. Didn't, of course, but can't just rest on your laurels. You've got to do everything you can. Jordan Daly doing exactly that. Nico Kumpu doing everything they can to try and gain some spots. They're in the pit lane for the final time. The first of the pitters inside the top 9, as this battle definitely still continues. Manso got a little better run here. Defensive line from Daly. Oh, it's going to be contact there. Daly getting a little sideways. Manso backs off of it. Manso down to the inside. Daly doesn't initially cut him off on the inside. Oh, and he's wide. Jordan Daly very wide. João Manso gets through for RPMS. Position gain done and dusted. João Manso says, thank you very much.
And Manso here with the much better tires at this point. About 7 or 8 laps, fresher tires. Did we see Kumpu already come out? Seems like it, because we don't see him on the standings here.
He must have done.
And we'll have a look at Kumpu and Conway actually correct here in the order. But yeah, that was very close racing.
Kumpu is in front of Conway, I think. Yes, Nico Kumpu is in front of Harry Conway.
9 seconds, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not really close. It's the better part of 9 seconds between Conway and Kumpu. So Kumpu has done it. They've completed their stops. They're clean, and they are in the lead of the cars that have pitted now. Now, will any of the other leaders come down this time? None of the ones that... Actually, no, they're just coming through now. I see the 777 under the start-finish line now. Are any of these coming in? I don't think they are currently, as Andre Hartman continues their battle to the front of the grid, but it's going to come undone for them, unfortunately. Drive-through penalty. Once again, no live stewards, so that can only mean one thing.
Back limits.
Yes, indeed. 4 track limit warnings gets you a drive-through penalty, and we haven't seen that yet today. We've seen a lot of speeding in pit lane, but we've not seen anyone get a drive-through. For Andre Hartman, they have got the first one.
And I also just realized the mistake I made when you asked me where I think Manso is. Of course, Manso was only close to Quizma because his first stop was without tires, and Quizma's stop was with tires, so there were about 20-25 seconds that Manso gained without the tires, so yeah. Of course, now Manso and Conway not in the lead, but yeah, not sure where they will end up then, so my bad.
John Eraser in chat is bringing something up to us. He's foreshadowing that Nico Kumpu is going to get a penalty. Now, John, we can't report on that because we don't know that for sure, and we are not an American news agency. We can't just report on what we actually. So, in that case, we can relay that you believe that. We can't say that because we don't know. But allegedly, potential penalty could be coming to not only Nico Kumpu, several other drivers in the race as well. We don't know that, but we will see, and we'll of course try and give you updates on that next week of some of the notable penalties, if there are any. But I'm going to say this: can't imagine these drivers are not going to report some of these incidents, and some of them certainly will require some sort of penalty assessment if that happens. I think I'm kind of stating the obvious on that, but I just wanted it to be said.
Here we still have the fight between the two identical cars.
Oh, could give up.
And
they're not identical.
And we have the Porsche of Manso making his way through and
Ooh,
sending the jag a
off
bit
the
wide
racetrack.
there. Yep.
Yep. Got to be careful here. You got cars that are quicker than you clearly on different laps, but at the same time, they have to be respectful that you're in the middle of a fight as well. I can tell you from my recent experience this weekend, a lot of the lead lap cars not necessarily as interested in your race as they are their own. Racing drivers tend to be quite self-absorbed. Who would have thunk that? But again, still have to be a little bit careful. You also, of course, got to know that if you are the one in the battle and there's a faster car coming up, you have more to lose in that instance as well. But no incident here. The triple two is going to come through. The battle is going to be preserved. Joe Dauber has had a moment to reload and has gotten back into the fray for these two very different cars.
There was a crash. Charlotte Robertson.
Remember, this car was handling quite poorly earlier. Oh, and it's a drift competition. Oh, and here's the problem. Her entry point and her clipping point was perfect, but she did leave the course, so I'm going to have to give her a not score.
Yeah, sadly no drift competition today. We haven't seen that many of those, but the Dauber still fighting here as they have to let by multiple cars. The last one was Daly there. But the fight still on, and we have the first one of the top 5 coming into the pits, and that is Kjellgren and Verstappen as well. So let's have a look at where they will end up. We have Kumpu. Remember, these will be very short pit stops, just dropping down the car, refueling 1 liter and leaving again. So they might come out ahead of Kumpu here. Verstappen already moving. Kjellgren also moving, and Kjellgren lost a lot of time to Verstappen here.
Certainly did. Oh,
no, Verstappen didn't stop yet. Okay, never mind.
Oh yeah, he was still moving, so this isn't going to be close. The two cars in the pit lane, it did look like Kjellgren was able to get back in front of Verstappen, but perhaps more importantly, Nico Kumpu out in front of both of them. So Verstappen's 747 Aston still behind Kjellgren. They will continue their fight. They're in 8th and 9th respectively, but do bear in mind many of the cars directly in front of them still have to come in, and they may gain on them based on that. But Nico Kumpu is through into 7th place. The top 6 still yet to make their stop with 6 minutes left to go. I have not been able to say thank you to any of our partners. This race that started with 53 cars has just been absolutely insane, and it's still continuing to be so because this group of cars right here still going at it as well. But for the time being, I just want to I can't do it. I just can't do it because there's contact on the racetrack. All I want to do is thank AK Esports for their help in providing servers and functionality required to host races like this. For more information on how and what AK Esports can do to help you with your event function or series, go to akesports.it. But I can't say that because they keep running into each other, Stu.
And that was a very optimistic dive. We're going to have a look at the replay in a bit, see if this fight here wraps up before. And they've been going at each other for a good 3 or 4 laps already. So we have more drivers at the top. Keller just came out of the pits, and Lang is also moving. And it looks like Lang is gonna lose the position to Kumpu and Kjellgren. Maybe it's gonna be very close on the exit here.
Real close. There goes Nico Kumpu through.
No, that was Boss. That was Boss. Kumpu is just
Kevin
behind.
Boss. That's a Lamborghini. That is not a McLaren. And no, those cars don't look anything alike. But I've screwed that up 3 or 4 times this past week. Tobias Lang has held on to 6th place just in front of Nico Kumpu. That is Kevin Boss leading this train for the time being. And that is not what Tobias Lang wanted to see. In fact, flashing Kevin Boss, letting him know, hey, this is big drama here. Kevin Boss does give way. It was still a bad corner for Lang, if we're honest. Maybe the tires cooled off a little bit too much. Nico Kumpu trying to come around the outside.
Oh,
Didn't
hit the
quite get
curb.
there. There was definitely contact there and curb hopping as well. That will back Kumpu off of the back of Lang. Lang gets a free run of it, at least for the time being. Stewie, what'd you see here?
Yeah, Lang just hitting the inside curb there, losing all the grip, and this was the replay of Merkov and Shipston, I believe. So yeah, just unfortunate, and we're going at it again, and it's almost the same corner, but somehow the Aston made it by the two other cars, and that's very close. Oh my god. And I mean, none of these cars are actually fighting for position.
Oh my
This
goodness!
is just Merkov and Shipston getting by the back markers, and that was a
That's
very
too
late
deep. That is
braking.
way too deep.
Yeah, that was a bit late, and standing it again.
Oh my goodness! It's just the patience has worn thin. It's been just about 90 minutes of racing. There's been frustrations bounding, and everybody getting a little bit weary, a little bit tired, and a little bit fed up. And the dives are coming in hot and heavy. You would think with so many dives happening out there, it would be some sort of Olympic swimming competition. It isn't. It's sim racing, but it's happening right now here at Silverstone. Martin Ulrich gets their final service done back out onto the racetrack. They are in 8th place. They lost 4 spots based on that, but that's still pretty decent considering for them. A couple of cars still yet to pit. They will be in this time. They don't have a actually, no.
Everybody
They will have
pitted.
already been in. Yeah, I was going to say that Ulrich was the last of the late pitters. Everybody has pitted and come back out. Just want to say a big thank you to Digital Motorsports, your one-stop shop for all of your sim racing hardware needs. They've got all the top brands and all the top products in one place. And while you're over there at digitalmotorsport.com, check out their sim rig builder. That's right. Build the sim rig of your budget or your dreams over at digitalmotorsport.com. Use our link in the description. Let them know that we sent you. Big thank you to Fanatec as well, the top tier sim racing hardware supplier, the #1 in the business for their direct drive bases and fantastic pedal sets as well. Fanatec.com. They have currently, I think they still have the $199 deal for the CSL base, the direct drive base.
Right,
So $200 for a direct drive base, absolutely incredible value. Visit our link in the description. Let them know that we sent you. Just about a minute left in the race. Still positions being squabbled over, still positions in doubt, and nobody calmer, admittedly. Normally by this point in the race, the calmer heads have prevailed. Everyone has settled into a groove. That has never happened with as many cars as we've had today. There are fights all over the place. My partner gasping again as we come through the chicane simply because they are all over each other. It's looking like Van der Kolen is going to walk away with this one and net another win in the Split 2 class. Just incredible stuff. The Split 1 standings are going to be completely jumbled up as well. And there's fights everywhere. This is a fight for, it's not really a fight for
BMW.
position.
Ooh.
BMW well off the pace there.
The,
And Bava just trying not to be in the way here, essentially.
yeah, the Bava just pitted at lap 36, only 3 laps ago. So on very low fuel, very fresh tires, and kind of sending it on all the drivers still in a fight here. And we have quite a few of them. We have Stevens here, who made the pass on Köhlen, actually. Must have been in corner 1. We have Tom Watts and Ted Edwards fighting, and we also have Kumpu, who is now very closely behind Lang, but it's only a couple of corners left. I don't think Kumpu can actually make it. Wismar now in the last corner, Kumpu hitting the curb a bit. So for some of these guys, it's coming down to the last lap.
Wismar was able to survive the early melee of the race, They drove a perfect one after that. They took the lead of the race. Nico Kuzma never looked back. The 777 wins it here at Silverstone. What a brilliant drive and an excellent strategy to boot. They win it comfortably, 7.5 seconds behind. Nicholas Keller for F2O Racing comes home a brilliant P2 and breaks up the McLaren parade on the podium. Thomas Ehrentraut for Limitless Speed takes home third in the battle, and they've won it. The battle for the podium, that is. Tobias Lang for Limitless comes home in fourth place. Nico Kumpu converts their strategy for fifth. Shelgren may be slightly disappointed to not even be in the top five after the pole position. Christoph Streppen ends up in seventh place. Just could never recover from that first pit stop, admittedly. Ulrich in eighth, and it looks like Harry Conway, one of the earliest pitters on the end of the first
Mike
lap,
Redford, not again.
does come home inside the top 10. Mike Redford, for the third or fourth time, I've lost count. I'm American, I can't count to begin with, has had another incident here on the last lap. Oh dear.
His race started so well, and then
Yeah.
he's just not had the luck today.
I don't know what Mike Redford did to a lot of the drivers in this race, but whatever it was, it must have been absolutely ridiculous, because he has been passed around like a beach ball at a summer party. And that's all I got to say about that.
Still came home in P4, which I think, considering what happened to him, he's still not too unhappy about. Oh my.
That was
Wow.
after the flag. That was after the flag, but I don't. That's definitely frowned upon.
I don't know which car that was anymore, so I'm not sure if I can find that again.
Well,
Probably not.
they're currently in low Earth orbit, so there's that. It is. It is. Not really supposed to do that there, simply because of the power of direct drive bases these days. They used to be funny back in the day when wheels had 2 Newton meters of torque. Wasn't a big deal. These days, it's very scary to do that to somebody. My goodness. Also, too, Vanderkolen, let's talk about split 2. Vanderkolen wins the war. Didn't look like it was going to be their day. I think they qualified outside the top 5. They drove into the top 5 quite early. They were just quiet, calm, and reserved. They didn't make big mistakes after the initial start anyway, and just had a really good day to make it 3 in a row for Vanderkolen. Second place, Withall comes all the way back in the 957 to finish second. Remember, that car had their issues as well, and they ended up in second place. Quite good for them, I think we can all agree. And who?
Yeah, Whistle started, quite far down from pole.
Yeah, he sure did. Started just outside the top 5. Who finished third in split 2? Stewie, I didn't quite catch that. Let's take a look at the
Foster.
standings. It was Forster. Forster does come home P3, led a little bit of the race earlier on, and that is your podium positions for all of the classes in today's race. Now, with that said,
I hope
we go
I
to
saved the replay, because I forgot to save it in the middle when I wanted to do it. So I'm gonna see if I saved it early enough to still catch the first few laps. Otherwise, we're gonna maybe have a look at that next week when somebody provided me the replay.
for sure. Folks, before you leave tonight, we just invite you. Well, first of all, we thank you for being with us. Chat was very humorous. There's a lot of messages in there I couldn't read live. You may have noticed that, but I appreciate them regardless. I was laughing along with you as well, and I enjoyed the banter going back and forward. On our way out tonight, we ask you like and subscribe. We'll be back with you next week, Donington Park, for a 90-minute race. I could be wrong, but I'm going to say it. I think the splits will be divided again next week because there's not enough pit boxes at Donington to facilitate having them all together. I think a lot of the drivers will appreciate the splits being separated regardless based on today's result. But 90-minute round 3 at Donington Park next week. You're not going to want to miss that. And why I'm added a thank you to Driver 61. Driver 61 has driver coaching, one-on-one and full-on racing schools. Help improve your skills behind the wheel of your sim racing race car. Of course, you can get 25% off your driver coaching by using our discount code in the description. Many have used it, and I've seen the results out of people and make you a better sim racing driver. It certainly does on a lot of accounts. And of course, Go Setups. A lot of the drivers I know in this race were racing Go Setups here today. They have esports level setups and safer alternatives for the more casual sim racer. Go Setups, their website, you can visit them via the link in the description. We know that you guys do make purchases from Go Setup via our link. We see that. We appreciate that whenever you do it. Go Setup's an excellent option for your setup needs. Stewie's showing you some of the carnage. I'm just going to call it what it is from today. And of course, we will also try to update you on if there are any penalties. And
boy.
This is just some of the incidents. The 404, Martin Lawrence was briefly in this race, and you can see what happened there. And it's just cars everywhere. I think I see Kevin Boss's car backwards there and just getting absolutely plowed.
Yeah, most of these probably had no idea what they were getting into. If you look at number 924, see here. Go back a bit, and I don't think they could see much of what is happening ahead. Yeah, there's so many cars, and then even a green
Riding
flag.
on board,
Now it's switched to yellow.
Well, it's just it's just you can't see, and you think you're clear, and the cars are still moving, and then you're in a tunnel because there's somebody in front of you, and you don't know what you don't know, and it's just exactly what Mini Simeon said. It's GT3 pinball.
I think we saw that.
Because this is sort of where it starts, where one of them starts. Oh no! Okay.
Something was there already.
John was in the next one. What starts this? Seen what just happened? We've seen that. That's the 256 in front. That's what happens. Okay. And I assume this has a similar effect. And there goes the AMG, the 23 over top of him. Kaiju car getting involved. I believe that was Jackson crashing in there. There's the pink Lamborghini that had their issues as well. That's what happened to John Eraser and many of the other cars in the field. Just absolute chaos. Stewie, thank you very much for your camera work today. You had to starting to sweat a little bit. You had a lot of things that you had to keep up with. That is very well done. Thanks for being with me on comms as well here today, filling in for John Dalton while he curses his ISP under his breath. Normal service resumed next week. 2 splits. Split 1 and Split 2 will show you live action from Split 1 and bring you the highlights of Split 2. And it is, again, a 90-minute race from Donington Park. What will the penalties, what will the fallout be, if any, from today? We can only watch and bring that to you when that becomes available. But just one more time, thank you all for being with us here today. A big thank you again to all of our partners that make this race and every race possible, aka Sports Driver 61, Fanatec, Digital Motorsport, and Go Setups. Thank you all for watching this race. Stewie, final thoughts.
What a race. We've seen about as much chaos as we expected, I guess, with that many cars. And I forgot, with how many cars did we finish? About 40...
46, 47.
43 or something? So,
is it only 43?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a 3 at the end for Bava, but yeah, we still finished with a lot of cars, and I think some of these drivers will question their choice to ask for the splits to be merged for this race, because we've had a lot of people who said that the splits are too small and we want them all on one track. So here you go. Do with this what you want, I guess. And yeah, excited for the next races because this definitely changed some of the standings.
Certainly did. Silver got sort of messed up a little bit, but well, I mean, what can you say about a man that just refuses to lose out in front of that, the pro field or the split one field, if you will? Absolutely mayhem. I don't know what those stats are going to look like, but hey, we'll bring them to you next week. Make sure you're here with us next Monday for another 90-minute race, Donington Park. We'll see you then. We hope you all have a fantastic week. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Stewie. Thank you all for watching. And until next time, have a good night.